You know, we trust AI to drive our cars and navigate our cities. But what happens when that same technology is guiding a doctor's life or death decision? Well, it turns out the answer is way more complicated and honestly, a little more frightening than you might think.
So, let me just ask you this straight up. Could a super smart AI, one that's designed to help, actually trick a top-tier medical expert into making a catastrophic mistake? I know, it sounds like something out of a movie, but it's a very real question we need to start asking.
And to get to the bottom of it, we're going to dive into a really fascinating study from 2024 by a team of researchers in Germany. They set up this brilliant experiment to see just how persuasive a faulty AI could be when the stakes are, well, as high as they get.
Okay, so first, let's set the scene. Put yourself in the shoes of a pathologist. Your entire job is to peer through a microscope at a tiny slice of human tissue and figure out the exact percentage of tumor cells. Now, this isn't just some number for a spreadsheet, it's the key that unlocks a patient's entire cancer treatment plan.
I mean, you have to be precise, because if that estimate is even a little bit off, it can send a patient down a completely wrong and really dangerous path. We're talking about the wrong kind of chemotherapy, or maybe no treatment at all when they desperately need it. The pressure is just immense. All right, now let's introduce the main character in our story, a sneaky little flaw in our own brains called automation bias. This is the hidden danger that pops up when we humans start teaming up with powerful AI.
So what is it exactly? Well, automation bias is basically our built-in tendency to just blindly trust what a computer tells us. Come on, think about it. The last time your GPS told you to make a turn down a street that looked kind of sketchy, did you argue with it or did you just turn? Yeah, that's automation bias right there.
And this bias can trip us up in two ways. There's an omission error. That's where the AI misses something important, and because you're trusting it, you miss it too. But what these researchers looked at was something way more insidious, a commission error. This is when the AI doesn't just miss something, it actively feeds you bad information. It literally invents a problem that isn't there, and you believe it.
So the big question is, how on earth do you even test for something like this in a group of highly trained, brilliant experts? Well, the research team came up with a pretty clever trap.
Okay, here's how they did it. First, they got 28 expert pathologists to analyze 20 different tissue slides and make their call. Simple enough. Then, 2 weeks later, they brought them back to look at the exact same slides, but this time, a helpful AI popped up with its own suggestion. Here's the kicker. On some of those slides, the AI's advice was deliberately totally wrong. Oh, and to add a little real-world stress, on half the slides, they only had 10 seconds to make a decision.
So, what happens when you pit an expert's intuition against a sometimes wrong AI assistant? Well, the results were a real double-edged sword.
Let's start with the good news, because there is some. For the most part, having the AI as a partner actually made the pathologists better at their jobs. Their estimates got way more accurate. And this is the dream of AI in medicine, right? It's a huge benefit. But that is definitely not the whole story.
This is where it gets a little scary. 7%. Now, I know 7% might not sound like a lot, but in medicine, a 7% error rate, that's a huge deal. That's a lot of lives.
So here's what that 7% actually means. In those cases, the AI's bad advice was so convincing that it made a medical expert, an expert, throw out their own correct judgment and switch to the wrong answer. These weren't just mistakes, these were brand new mistakes that would have never happened without the AI. That, right there, is pure automation bias in action. Okay, but what about that ticking clock? Did the pressure of that 10-second time limit push the doctors to trust the faulty AI even more?
And this is where it gets really fascinating. The time pressure, believe it or not, didn't make them more likely to fall for the AI's bad advice. That 7% rate stayed about the same. But it made their mistakes so much worse. The severity of the error went through the roof. When a doctor was fooled by the AI under pressure, their wrong answer wasn't just a little off, it was way off. The average error size jumped from about 19.5 points to almost 28. So under stress, they didn't just trust the AI, they over-trusted it, even when it was completely out to lunch.
So where does this leave us? What does this all mean for our future with AI, not just in hospitals, but everywhere?
Okay, let's wrap this all up. What this study really shows us is that AI is an incredible tool, for sure. It can make experts even better. But it is not perfect.
This automation bias thing is a serious risk, creating new kinds of errors we've never seen before. And when you add stress to the mix, we lean on that faulty AI even harder, turning little slip-ups into huge blunders. It just proves that our own brain, our own critical thinking, is still the most important tool in the box.
When you think about it, the great challenge of this new AI era isn't really about building smarter and smarter machines. It's about training ourselves to be smarter, more skeptical partners with the tools we create. The future isn't about man versus machine. It's about knowing when to trust the machine and, more importantly, when to trust ourselves.